right, welcome ladies and gentlemen. I'm really excited about this panel that we have here today. We're going to be talking about marketing, but actually the AI, automation, the new blueprint that we're really seeing today, how it's evolving in this landscape that we have right now. So I'm welcomed by two incredible individuals, and I want them to introduce themselves to you all today.
Awesome, thank you, Keith. Yeah. I think we could just let that music go for a little while. And, it's after lunch, and thank you all for being in the room. I'm Laura Johns, the founder and CEO of the Business Growers. Have been in telecommunications for about the last 20 years. INCOMPAS member for quite some time, and really am proud to be here. Our agency focuses on foundational marketing and lead generation for MSPs, ISPs, and the industry as a whole. So really happy to be here. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you.
I am going to check her birth certificate because you can't be in telecom that long.
Actually,
You're too young for that.
Yeah, well,
I'm Joy Milkowski, founder and CEO of Access Marketing Company. Been in and around telecom marketing for about 20 years. So we specialize very specifically in telecommunications, a lot of RSPs, and also what I call telecom and telecom adjacent. So data centers, infrastructure, construction, engineering, and things like that. So telecom, why we didn't go into handbags and perfume and things like that, we decided to go.
The 20 years can be attributed to the dermatologist that I still have a trade with every month.
There you go.
Helps me on the lasers and such. So that's what it is.
Perfect. So let's set the stage. So we're calling this marketing's new blueprint. But when did the old blueprint really stop, or when did it stop working for us? Did we see it evolve over time, or is it slow motion? Is it still occurring right now? So let's set the stage for the audience.
I think that the old blueprint, for me, in my opinion, stopped working when mass marketing, we have changed as a people, I think, in terms of personalization, specialization, customization. We get what we want when we want it. And from a marketing standpoint, when we're trying to do mass messaging and mass campaigns to the masses to try to scale our approach, no one's listening anymore because we've changed as a community, as a whole. And so, especially in the industry, we have a lot of people fighting for attention. I think that we can say, when you see all of the things that are coming at you from a marketing standpoint, everyone's fighting for your attention. The retargeting, the specialization has to be really dialed in and tight. And so I think the old blueprint of let's throw everything out there and see what sticks just doesn't work for our buyer anymore.
Here's a hot take. I don't think it's the marketing blueprint that's changed. I think AI helps you actually achieve the same blueprint that worked then that works now, which is say the right message at the right time to the right person.
Right person, yep.
Excellent, love that. So we just mentioned AI. So how is AI transforming marketing as we know it right now? I'm curious about knowing what you're hearing about AI in this atmosphere. Where are some myths that are out there? Is there anything that you would say, hey, that is something that I want you to take away from us right now and tell the audience?
Well, I would say, please come back in 45 minutes for our session, because I'm actually going to do a whole workshop on how you can use AI for marketing and sales enablement. But one of the interesting things, you guys, and I'm sure you run into this all the time too, is people say, I don't really need the marketing help right now, I have AI. Well, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes for you. Because I think when used in the wrong way, AI can actually hurt you more than it can help you. So, like I said, I'm going to be talking a lot about this in my session here in a second, but I think when used the right way, AI can be transformative. It can multiply results and effort. When used wrong, it can damage your brand more than you think.
I agree. And I think for me, misconception, I don't know if it's a myth, but I think that there's, maybe a misconception out there that AI is going, that AI replaces people. And maybe in some situations, but also the way that our people are trained and are going to be working. Now maybe you're not going to be looking for a copywriter, you're going to be looking for an AI content strategist. Or it's going to change, of course, jobs and positions and job descriptions, but you can't put a blanket, in my opinion, on AI is replacing people, because that's just not true.
Perfect. Love to hear that. So let's shift gears just a little bit. So as we talk about AI, a lot of that is automation. So it's making it easier. You're having the copywriters, like you say, it's being replaced for you. How is automation really changing the landscape right now for us in marketing?
I I feel like, like I was saying earlier, with the mass distribution of content and automation, you have to be really careful, which I'm going to be talking actually about automation, so stick around after her session and we can talk about that. I'll be talking about that a lot. But, I think that one big thing that we miss when we think about content at scale and automation and how to use it in marketing is sending out. Sorry, I just hit my mic. Sending things out. But we should equally be thinking about what we're learning and bringing in when it comes to AI and automation. We should be using our outputs, what we're doing, outwardly, whether it's, emails, triggers, automation, things like that, should only be driven by what we've already learned. And I think that we're sometimes skipping that because maybe that takes a little bit longer, or it takes somebody that really understands data, but that should be what's driving that outward personalization of what we're doing with automation and AI. And I think if you miss the first part, then you're really going to mess up. Like you're saying, it's dangerous,
Yeah.
It's interesting. Automation is tricky, and dangerous is the right way to say it. I remember when marketing automation came out, right? And you had trigger-based emails and nurtures and things like that. And my partner used to say, it gets your marketing to people faster. So I'm going to use a bad word. If you have shitty marketing, automation just gets your shitty marketing to people faster.
Right.
So I think the problem, you guys, with automation is you think it's a magic pill any more than AI is a magic pill. If your foundational marketing, and by marketing I mean your message, your differentiation, your story, your brand promise, those types of things, if that is flawed in any way, automation and AI will absolutely show you the vulnerabilities, and it will hurt you in myriad ways. So I feel about automation the same way I feel about AI, which is handle with care, use with caution, and it can absolutely be transformative, but it can also be, extremely dangerous.
Excellent. So you just mentioned the key word, transformative. So as we're looking at AI and automation, it's easy for us to just find a quick fix. But a lot of times in those campaigns, it's not humanized anymore. How do we continue to have those campaigns become humanized and make sure they're hitting home? It's the real voice, it's authentic for people in our audience.
I think it's with AI-powered humans. So hot take, one of the things, if you guys happen to read the INCOMPAS Show daily cover to cover, you saw that we announced that we're launching our AI-based, account-based marketing program and services. I believe that if you empower great humans with AI and automation, then that's the ticket. I don't think it's a replacement for, I think it's an augmentation of. And I think where it becomes transformative is when you make great humans even better through the use of automation and AI. It is not a replacement for. Interesting thing, I saw on LinkedIn recently a gentleman who's in sales, and he said AI helped him send 27,000 AI-generated emails. Would you like to know how many responses he got? 0. How many of you, show of hands, turn up the lights, whatever, have responded to a cold, obviously AI-generated email in your inbox trying to sell you something? I just want to let you know, no hands went up. 0 hands went up. But you know what I get asked all the time? Can I do that as a tactic? No, I cannot. I'm not going to do that as a tactic because it doesn't work. But you know what I do all the time is I do go in and coach salespeople how to use AI tools to make them more effective at personalization, relevance, timeliness, so that you can get a response.
I love that. So keeping it human, I think one thing that we need to look at is kind of take a step back and look at, and I'll talk about this in my session a little bit, but just looking at automation as a whole, figuring out what you're trying to accomplish, and then kind of work backwards from there. When I think about a framework in which, I'm trying to figure out what do I keep human and what do we automate or what do we use AI for, I think about, okay, I do an audit. I say, what's sucking up everyone's time? I also look at what are we messing up on the most, because AI is really good at that sometimes. If we have a lot of room for human error in a certain part of our process, what can we use that's AI driven for that? What's taking a lot of manual time? So when you're thinking about, building systems, not necessarily producing content, but building systems and trying to decide what do we take, the human out of. Also just data retrieval. Now you have to have, kind of going back to you have to have somebody who understands strategically what to do with the data. But having data available to us through the use of AI tools is better than it's ever been, and will only continue to get better. So doing a quick audit of what is taking a lot of your team's time, and then what is the most causing the most room for human error in your own business, and then figuring out what tools can kind of go alongside that. All the while remembering that you have to have human power behind that strategic part of it, which is never going to go away, in my opinion.
Can I I want to give you guys a recommendation, and that is, if you are hiring, especially a marketing professional at your company today, first of all, call us first, we might be able to help.
Right.
But secondly, if you're actually going to hire an in-house marketer, one of the top skills you should be looking for is somebody who is an absolute AI powerhouse, an AI power user. So if they come to you with a marketing resume, at the very top of that thing should not just be fluency, but mastery of AI in all of its various forms, because that person is probably going to do the work of 3-4 people if you hire the right person. So just a piece of advice, a recommendation for you as you're looking for really strong marketing resources in your company.
I love that. We'll get to that a little bit later about staff and changes and then marketing as well too. But one point I want to touch on, is authenticity really what audiences want, or is that what we think that they want as a marketer?
I don't know. What's a show of hands?
Yeah.
How many of you would appreciate getting a cold, obviously AI written communication? How many of you would respond to an AI voice call? How many of you would respond to that versus a genuine human handshake, eye contact, somebody who says, I like that shirt, how's the weather in Toledo? I don't know. Again, genuinely, there are no hands going up. So, I think we're in this crazy dichotomy right now where people know that they want authenticity, right? But I think that the allure of the AI scale makes them chase the horizon. You're chasing something that doesn't exist, right? So let's be real and just really focus on what's really possible. I'm sorry to steal the microphone there, but I feel so passionately about it that, and it's something we battle all the time.
Yeah, I think, two things that AI can't do. It doesn't have human empathy. And also just that trust building factor that ties into things that only we as humans do. When you trust someone and you don't trust someone in a conversation, you can feel it when you're having a sales encounter with someone and they're telling you about their product. Those are things that can be felt, not necessarily written or automated or, so I think, again, agree with you completely on this is that we know, I always say, if I see no fluff in another, I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all right now, if anybody is posting anything that says no fluff or, strategic insights, just go ahead and tell AI to remove that from your phone. No fluff is my least favorite, actually. But, the reality is, especially when we're selling, for the most part in this room, I would say we're selling kind of big ticket items, right? We're not selling a bottle of shampoo, and we're not selling a pair of red sneakers. You're selling something that is going to require that human empathy and trust building component. And so I think people do want authenticity, especially in this room,
Well, Brian talked about it this morning in if you guys missed his breakfast talk, you should hit him up for his slides. It was really good. And one of the things he talked about was for a lot of the RSPs, you guys lean into the local messaging. Why do you do that? You lean into it because, you sell in an environment where your word is your bond. I can, give a handshake, and that is your differentiation. And yet, right, some of you think that you can message it using AI alone, and where it's obvious. And to those of you who are savvy with AI, you can tell when something's written with AI pretty easily. How many of you, by show of hands, think when you receive something, you can tell it was written by AI? A lot of you have, I know it's dark in here, a lot of hands just went up, right? And so I think that's one of the challenges. You can't on the one hand say, local is our differentiator, our people are our differentiator, and then do marketing and sales enablement with AI without a lot of massaging and personalization.
Yep, and Joy, you just had a great point of mentioning it, being able to tell what's written by AI. So a lot of you in this room have heard ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, but we're seeing new things come on the horizon already this year, like Sora. So if you're not familiar, Sora is an AI video editing platform, makes amazing videos that seem very lifelike, very real. So should there be labels on this content is my question to you all. Should we say this is AI generated to, of course, make sure that it's safe for our users out there, or people know this is actually fake, it's not real, or is that the wild, wild west right now that we're in?
You know, I have an opinion on that. I think it's interesting. You know, I think we have come into an era where we have an expectation, and I don't necessarily, you know, unless we're hiding under a rock, I think that everybody in the room knows that AI is being used. You know, Sora, my brother likes to send me videos of his dogs doing, you know, flying through the air and some crazy things on Sora. Did he have to tell me that was AI generated before he sent it? I've never seen his dog fly, so I'm assuming that it's AI, right? And so I kind of think of that as, and as a marketer, so I'm positioning this from a marketer's standpoint. But as a marketer, you know, let's say if I owned a bakery and you came to get a cake from me, I have ingredients that were all included in that cake, and I hand you the cake, you don't necessarily expect me before you take a bite every single time to re-explain to you the ingredients of that cake, right? I'm giving you the cake, you ask if it's gluten-free, I say yes, and then we move on, right? So I feel like, you know, from a marketer standpoint, and then if you're using AI tools that impact your customer or that might impact your customer, you know, there are places, in my opinion, to communicate that, whether it be your contract, your, you know, some expectations that you're setting, conversations. Do I personally believe that every time a piece of content is produced, you have to explain what part was utilizing AI? No. And, you know, also, like I said, we are entering into an age where, you know, if you're not using AI in some form or fashion, you're going to get left behind. And so I believe that you know, that's the best way to do that, is that we are transparent about the way that we're using it to our customers that it impacts, but not necessarily having to, you know, give all the details every time we make a post. But you may have a different opinion. I don't know.
No, my opinion is nobody in this room should be using AI for video. Just hot take. Once again, I think there's a time and a place for something like that. Now, I shouldn't say no one.
In their business, but the dog.
In their business.
The
dog.
Yeah.
Send me a funny. Please add me to your funny dog video list. I love getting stuff like that. I genuinely believe that you speaking authentically, like if I could beg anyone and everyone in this room, please, 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 really consider executive thought leadership. Genuine, true executive thought leadership, where either you're taking video of yourself talking about an important topic or whatever. Don't AI-ify it. You've got a great point of view just the way you are. And so whether you're typing it, whether you're videoing yourself, which by the way, luckily for us now, the video standard is so low because people like authentic video. I think Blair Witch Project changed all that. Yeah. So, but with regard to, you know, whether you need to tell people, I don't think you should ever try to trick people. So if you are doing it, I think you should tell people, or it should be very tongue-in-cheek so it's obvious that that's what you're doing. But no, I agree with you. I don't know that I have to tell every single person, because I think in this day and age, absolutely everyone uses AI in a lot of different ways. You just have to be really careful about what you do. Like I said, in this room, please, nobody should be doing AI video.
Agreed. So let's take a peek into the future a little bit. If there's a skill that a marketer needs to have right now, or going to the future 3, 4, 5 years from now, what's that skill? What does it really look like as a marketer evolving with this changing landscape?
You touched on it a second ago in terms of who we're hiring. If you're hiring somebody in the marketing role, you know, I believe that the ability to take what we're learning with data from AI, understanding tools and resources available to us via AI, but also not necessarily expertise in a particular tool, because if you're hiring somebody because they know this tool, it will get replaced, right, by something else. So you want somebody who can think above that and understand the data component, understand how to use tools, different tools, and research different tools, but also that human empathy part, and understands kind of the strategy of all of it and how it connects, which is hard to test for in like an actual, you know, assessment, but questions that you can ask around that, like, hey, how would you take this X problem in our business and solve it with you know, cheap, you know, a less expensive way, or how, you know, to kind of understand how their thoughts work in terms of, okay, what can we pull AI in for and what can we not? I feel like, you know, it's just really important to make sure that as we're bringing in people, we're hiring people that aren't necessarily just thinking about replacing what they're doing with AI, but also strategically how to use it long term, if that makes sense.
I'm going to have the same answer in 3 years from now as I do today. Hire a marketer who's been in sales, period.
Yeah.
Mic drop. If I could drop this mic off, I would drop it. What makes Laura a fantastic marketer is she sells for a living. I think what makes me a pretty decent marketer is I sell for a living. If your marketers aren't doing ride-alongs with your top salespeople, you are missing an opportunity. The skill that marketers need more than anything is to be able to understand in detail the sales process. How difficult is it to book an immediate appointment? What types of objections are they being faced with? What trends are they talking about? What pain points are they facing? And sometimes marketers, we don't mean to, but sometimes that disconnect between what actually happens in the sales front lines and sort of marketing, sometimes getting stuck in our ivory tower, just remove the gap. And if you're a marketer sitting in this room, you know what? The first thing you do when you leave here is say, I want to do a ride-along. I want to spend a week watching what happens. You sit there with that salesperson who's cold calling and grinding and trying to get an appointment, or who's actually out doing door knocking and having to walk the fiber route and try to get appointments with all the people in that building. Watch them get kicked out of the building, right? Watch them get hung up on, screamed at, cussed at. All of a sudden, as marketers, we gain a lot of empathy when we see what our sellers are up against, right? And we go, oh, shoot, I'm sitting here worried about this stupid social post that doesn't do jack crap to drive revenue. I believe as marketers, we should tie everything we're doing to revenue and not do it if it doesn't tie to revenue. So what skill do I think marketers are going to need now and 3 years from now? Be able to sell or understand the sales process.
Yeah, what it takes to sell.
And as you can tell, I'm fired up about that, man.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Been selling a long time.
That's right.
I agree with that. Real life experiences count more than anything when it comes to marketing. So again, I echo what Joy is saying there. Staying along the future theme, as marketing exists today, a lot has changed already, but what won't exist in 5 years from a job standpoint? So copywriting is changing before our eyes right now with ChatGPT, as everyone knows, but is it just copywriting, or is there other jobs that are in jeopardy as well too? Should marketers already start evolving, trying to find the next role to change their career path?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that anything that's just super heavy task driven, you start thinking about just checking a lot of boxes, or, you know, someone whose sole responsibility is to you know, just check things off the list. Kind of, I don't want to say project management as a generalization, but anything that's just really heavy task driven, there are going to be ways that could be, you know, improved and done with automation. I believe, you may disagree with this, I don't know yet, but I also believe that we're getting to a place where we can get 80% of the way there from an SDR standpoint or outbound. You know, we can get a lot further using AI and automation than we're now already getting further than we were a few years ago, but how much further are we going to be? So, you know, some of these kind of traditional, it's not really marketing, but SDR type roles, or, you know, outbound type roles, those are going to be changing to the point where, kind of going back to who you need to hire the sales, somebody who really understands that emotional part of the sales, kind of be thinking about, okay, when I'm, you know, bringing somebody in, am I bringing somebody in who's, you know, not just responsible for this very early stage part of the funnel, because that might be gone. We might be getting to the point, I think we are, where you can bring somebody in and AI and automation has done 80% of the job. So that's kind of my thoughts. Of course, with copy, and, you know, you've got tools today that can pretty much pull from data and create the social media content, kind of some of that drumbeat stuff that we're, you know, maybe beating our heads on the table about today. All of that, I believe, is going to become second nature, and so you really need somebody who thinks strategically and who understands, you know, that full funnel and can close the deal, because we might be able to get to the point where we need that.
Sure.
Lazy sales reps.
Yeah.
And let's
get rid of those today. We don't get rid of them.
Exactly. I think I echo the sentiment. Copywriting as a discipline, I think a content strategist becomes a lot more important than a copywriter.
And storytelling.
I think a sales enablement strategist becomes more helpful than a sales enablement professional who's simply writing cadences for the sales team. You know, I think I completely agree with you that at the tactical level, AI can do it better, faster, but again, it's the human in the loop. Hiring the people who can be the human in the loop is going to be the thing that you've got to focus on, not just the, you know, to your point, sort of the drumbeat tactical, the tactical work.
Agreed. So let's say you're an executive in the room right now. You have a legacy system or legacy processes at the moment. How do you take that next step in the evolution of marketing? How do you drive transformation without breaking your current processes? You're breaking your current campaigns, but still evolving with the times.
I'm going to actually talk about this after Joy speaks in a little bit. I have a little graphic that I'll show that kind of What we don't want to do is start changing everything all at once. I think that it's really important, just like you would in your revenue goal setting, to also do your AI goal setting and decide, okay, where do we want to be in 12 months? And again, when we're doing that, don't just think tools and what cool AI things are out there, what do we want to implement, where do we want to be in 12 months?
Right.
What do we want to see change, what's slowing us down? Do the big picture, then work backwards, and then do one thing at a time. I think that the biggest mistake that we can make, and also can affect culture, is when we chase, who's a founder in the room that likes to chase some shiny squirrels, So you want to make sure that your team isn't affected by where your brain might be. Go ahead and build your plan just like you would the plan for revenue growth, and then create, an actual 12-month plan to execute instead of trying to do everything at once.
I saw an interesting reel recently. Jeff Bezos was talking about how one of his advisors told him he has just enough ideas to sink Amazon. Right, and I think for the C-suites and the leaders in the room, I think the best thing you can do is, rather than dictate, empower and ask questions. What if it looked like this? Instead of going and saying, we need to be using ChatGPT more, asking your leaders, I'd like in 2 weeks, I'd like a one-page executive summary for you on 3 ways that we can use AI in the next 6 months to increase our sales and marketing efforts. Right? So rather than, again, it's so easy to go and say, I found this new thing, go do it, right? For the leaders in the room, I don't know how many of you are Jocko Willink fans, extreme ownership and things like that. He talks a lot about decentralized command. And one of the things with decentralized command is asking your leaders, right, for their insights and opinions rather than you telling them what to do. You don't want to be a micromanager. You want to be a leader who empowers.
Absolutely. And Joy, you kind of got to my next question. We have C-suite level in the room. We have new professionals in the room. Is there a piece of advice you want to give to each of those taking the next step? You started touching on C-suite already.
Sure. I mean, my piece of advice is come to my next workshop, because I'm going to go into detail on how you can use AI in a lot of different ways. I guess what I would say is this: release fear. I think sometimes we fear change. We fear getting it wrong and things like that. One of the things that I love that some of my clients trust me enough to say we do market research through marketing. So instead of just having analysis paralysis where will this one work, will this product or that product, I'd say, let's do market research through marketing, and let's put it out and let your users tell us, let your prospective clients tell us what's most important. So my piece of advice is, don't operate with fear. Operate with a spirit of openness and knowing that you're not going to get it all right, but fail forward would be, I guess, probably my biggest piece of advice when it comes to AI automation, empowerment, when it comes to marketing.
I love that. Laura?
I think for C-suite, I was just thinking, I've identified someone internally in my business that's now our AI and innovation team member. And I would say, if you, first of all, hopefully everyone in this room and who's going to stick around in this room has made the decision to invest in AI tools, more automation, resources. I think that we all hopefully agree that that's going to take us into in leadership in the next few years. Go ahead and identify whether it's a current team member. If you see someone who's really digging in and interested, assign them this job, figure out how to make this their job. I think that all of us should be thinking about, if you don't already have that person in your company, who it's gonna be, because in my agency, we're building teams around AI and innovation. What would that look like if you were to do that as a leader? I agree with you on fear. I think getting more curious versus everyone, panicking and thinking, if you are driving AI tools and resources into your business out of fear and panic, then it's not going to work. So, I just think as a leader in your business, start to identify who that is. And of course, as that, maybe it's someone that's not as tenured, that's in the business, figure out how you can be that person. The best, safest, fastest way to job security in the next decade is to know as much as you can, just like you said, as much as you can about how AI can improve your business. And so I'd say, kind of on both sides of the fence. If you're a leader, a C-suite, figure out who that person is. And if you're not, figure out how to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's talk about marketing budget. So a few years ago,
my favorite conversation.
We were in the golden age of social media where everyone was doing social media ads on every platform possible to get their voice out there, to have awareness around certain products. In this new era, has that changed? Do we need to focus budget on somewhere else now? Is it still social media? How do we get the voice out there as marketers?
We've been wasting money a long time. I'd say a lot of people are wasting money. Not us, but a lot of people are.
The answer you're not going to like is you just have to have a bigger advertising budget. Eyeballs have become so expensive. The two things that have happened that are hurting you from an advertising perspective is eyeballs are getting more expensive while at the same time attention spans are shrinking. Mm-hmm. So that ad that you want to show them that they're only looking at a split second, mm-hmm. now you've got to show it to them 20 times for there to be absorption. And you know what, 20 times, it costs money to get in front of them. I often joke, I'm not buying a yacht with your money. I wish I were, right? I actually have to give that money to an advertising platform or to Google, right? I have to channel those dollars somewhere for you to activate it and get you the mind share that you deserve. So one of the things, like I said, is if you are going to think at all about your marketing budget, it's to think about, the proportion of it in advertising. Now, at the same time, I'm going to make a recommendation to you as well. Think about advertising not broadly, but figure out how to laser target your advertising, right? How do I condense it and consolidate it into one really focused, specific area and message and target audience so it has the most impact? Sorry, I probably stole your thought.
No, I was going to say, if you hear anything today, the spray and pray approach to marketing is over. It's over. And again, people are, busy and distracted. And if we are sending out messaging that is confusing, and first of all, I've said this more times than I can even, if you and your employees don't understand what you do and who you serve, then how in the world do you expect someone else to understand who you? I'm talking, go to the homepage of your website. If you don't answer that right there, mm-hmm. then no one else is going to understand. So, I think for me, in terms of, next, as you're evolving and trying to figure out what to do and what positions to create and all that, I really believe that, again, with you, the really dialing in who you're selling to and going all in on that, because it is getting more expensive. And if you're spraying and praying, you're wasting money. So the spray and pray approach is dead. I also call it spitball marketing, which I think I'll talk a little bit about. Really hone in on who your buyer is, and there are going to be more effective channels to strategically find those. And also take a look over the last year. I think a lot of times we aren't looking at data. Take a look over the last 12 months. Where did every closed deal come from? Pour your dollars into those resources and where you know that those deals will come from. And I think that's really the smart way to budget.
Absolutely. So for our executives in the room, one thing I want to put out there, if you've ever been inside a marketing meeting, you may have heard the term SEO, or more famously, we just need to be on the first page of Google to make sure our product is out there, make sure our brand is out there. But has that changed, actually? If you now Google something, you're seeing an AI paragraph at the very top of a page now. Mm-hmm. So are we seeing the death of SEO right before our eyes, and it's evolving as we speak right now?
I don't think it's the death of SEO. I think it's an evolution of SEO, because believe it or not, you guys, what makes you more findable to AI is just a better version of what made you findable to a search engine. Right. So it's just learning a few of the tricks, and just if you are continually building a great content strategy and answering relevant questions, and here's the thing, don't just talk about yourself, talk about things your prospects are interested in, right? Like I said, there are some very specific things, certainly we can, and you probably can, we can help you become more findable to the LLMs, but I think what made you good at SEO, highly relevant, good, detailed content that answered questions people actually have, that's going to serve you well in the age of LLMs just as much as it did with search engines.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Piggybacking off of her, there's a great book out there. There's a 1.0 and a 2.0. They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan, and the 2.0 version of that is called Endless Customers. I highly recommend. No one's writing it down. It will change your life. So if you want to take Endless Customers, They Ask You Answer, both by Marcus Sheridan. He actually outlines the big 5 kind of content pillars that you should be writing to answer every question that your customers are asking. And if you don't know, I hope that everybody in here is recording sales calls. If you are not recording sales calls, make sure you're recording sales calls. I like to take about 6 months to a year's worth of transcripts from sales calls, throw them into ChatGPT and ask what the top 20, 30, 40, 50 most common questions are, and then that becomes your content strategy. So, but if your website, and this kind of goes back to building a story brand with Donald Miller and other kind of really, popular frameworks, is that a lot of times in marketing, we like to make everything about us and how great we are, but inherently no customer of yours cares. They only care about what's in it for them. Mm-hmm. And so the better job that we do creating content that answers the questions that they're asking on our website and blog content, on pages and social content, then that's what any search engine, whether it be Google or otherwise, is going to pull, because that, if you notice, when you Google something, you Google, red shirt, long sleeve. When you search in ChatGPT, you're asking a really long something in the form of a question. Where do I go when I'm in Tampa and need a red shirt with blah, blah, blah? So the way that we're searching is different today than it was. And so we need to be able to accommodate that in search. And that book is a really great kind of way to understand those pillars. I highly recommend it.
I'll definitely take a look at that one.
That's great.
So as we begin to close now for this panel, I just want to get a quick show of hands in the room. How many of you feel like you're ahead of the curve right now?
There we go.
Okay.
We have one. Great. How many of you feel like there's a lot of work to still be done? Agree. I think that will be.
Thank you for being authentic. Like, that's courageous.
So is there a piece of advice that you can give to everyone in the room right now that feels like, hey, there's still work to be done? Where do they start, or where do they go to continue have the process evolve over the course of time to make sure they're meeting the demand for the customers?
I think you made the best piece of advice just a second ago, which was, are you listening enough to your prospects and going to look at what's causing you to win deals? So are you talking to your prospects, and are you seeing what's helping you win? And then orient your marketing around those two things. Now, one of the things, though, is it's usually not one thing that wins a deal. Was it the ad they saw? Was it seeing you at a trade show? Was it that conversation with a salesperson? You have to really kind of look holistically at the touch points that occurred on the journey to winning that customer. But I think the more you're listening to your prospects, even the ones who don't buy and the ones that do buy, are you really understanding what they care about, how they found you, what it was that tipped the scales and made them at least be willing to talk with you? Where are their watering holes? Where do they get their information? How do they build trust, right? Asking questions like that will really help you know, where do I focus my marketing dollars? And then the last piece of advice I would give you is, don't do anything unless it ties to revenue, period. Mm-hmm. Just stop doing it. And I mean that sincerely, right? Mm-hmm. Stop doing it if it doesn't tie to revenue, or if you can't articulate how it ties to revenue, stop doing it.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes founders are the worst at just, not to offend anyone in the room, but sometimes we have great ideas and we just want our team to execute on it, and we're not thinking, as the owner of the business, does this tie to revenue? We just want it done, mm-hmm. right? But the problem is you could be taking your team's time away from revenue producing activity. So I think that'd be a kind of a caution, I'd layer that. Also, this is not about AI, but just to align with what you're saying, if there's anything that you can learn today, it's understand what drives your revenue, but also understand that there is not one magic pill. If you or sauce or whatever you want. I love people who are like, I'll pay you $500 a lead.
I know.
I'm like, do you know what it takes to create opportunity? It's not, again, maybe it's one thing that caused the conversion, but if you have a good CRM and good data, you realize that it was 21 things before that. And so I think that this industry needs to understand that we need to get a really good grasp on data so that we can understand what's causing this closed deal. We might be able to look at, okay, well, all these closed deals this year came from X activity. Okay, what effort did we put into getting this X activity? And then let's go look at all the touches that they got before that and understand. We have to understand what's working, what's driving revenue, and then how do we build a marketing program around that and not waste our time and energy on, those squirrels that I was talking about earlier, that sometimes are from the founders. We're the worst offender. But yeah, that would be my takeaway, is that it truly is about, I call it omnipresence or multi-channel, but multi-channel in channels that are actually impacting your revenue.
Agreed. Well, I want to thank you both for today's panel, Joy, Laura. Please, audience, stick around. They're going to have 2 great marketing workshops that I'm personally interested in. We already started touching on automation and AI, so please stick around for a few minutes, and we'll get started with those workshops pretty soon, too. All right?
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.